This video was originally presented as part of a pre-championship webinar in 2018. Some of the information has been edited.
Here we go. Standings, Dale pointed that out to you today. You know, its primary function is that they're used as a tool for seeding only, seeding into prelims. This does not include every color guard. You heard Dale talk about the 400 miles. We also have a group of international color guards that come over that are not factored into that just magically appear in orders. And Dale expressed to you about the middle third, bottom third, and top third, how that works. And this is not a promise ring. Boys, my Shirley Wickham used to always say this. Here it is. Judges do not use these. This is not a predictor. Prelims of championships is a brand new contest. We start over completely. This applies to the regional growth formula too. That's that 1.5 points that you guys get every week that kind of factor into the seeding. So after the regional season is over, and remember the main function, primary function of regional season is not to predict the winner at championships, but to simply get you into a seeding order. And then all of that is over. It's as though we start with brand new contest, no prior numbers, no awareness that way at all. So also no regional growth formula. So if you think that you're going to get this growth formula, this 1.5 points to 2 points or so between your last regional to circuit championships and then on to championships, then you are mistaken, and it's time to make sure you have a game plan for how you're going to express that to kids. And we're going to talk about that here. So placing your expectations, questions you ask yourself: will you stay in the same place as you are in the standings? Say it with me. No, it's not likely. Others are ahead of you and behind you. And I love Dale's fact of and this is an old PowerPoint, but Dale was telling you how the X number place came in to win, and it was down in the teens, which I thought was beautiful. In the 50 some odd place, you know, made finals. I thought that was really, really great. So will you maintain the 1.5 point growth over the last standing score at prelims? You know this answer also, of course not. That growth only applies to the regional season. There are other factors that prevent scores from going up. We're going to talk about those here in a second also. It's placing our expectations. If I'm at the bottom of the standings, do I stand a chance? Well, so far, I mean, I think the example I have on here is 41st, and Dale gave you a 50 some odd. So that's pretty darn good, I think. Yes, the 41st color guard from last year's Classic A standings made finals. Judges are able to progress you forward with great performances. That's key. You're in charge of the performance. You got to turn that in. If not, you're depending on other people's performance, and maybe that's a lack of. And I don't know. That doesn't sound like skill. That sounds like luck. Before we continue, we need to review a couple little things that we talked about at the very beginning of the season. This is a scoring process for judges. They go through impression, analysis, comparison, where they compare the groups, and then they have this refinement. The thing that's important for tonight's conversation is this refinement. Refinement is the ability to adjust the numbers at the end of each round. And this is how we protect the units that may be at risk from issues on performance order. But also what you have to understand is groups that may be in the same competitive neighborhood that are right at that split where Dale divided it in half. You know, let's say the one that was on top got the draw and they're going on last in the round, and then the one that was closest is going on first in the round. They drew a lower spot, and yet these guys could go on hours apart from each other, and judges know that they may still be in that same competitive neighborhood. So they have to be aware all the way through. This is here for your protection. So placing your expectations here. If I go on early in my round, am I doomed to not make the next qualifying round? No, not doomed, but you must turn in a good performance. You've heard this before. To be remembered and to be considered in the refinement process as scores are finalized. As judges go through before those scores are finalized, they go back and recap everything they've seen. And this is why I was talking about programmatic things. They're going to count on certain images that just pop into their head that are the bumper stickers for what it is they remembered about you. And you want those things to be striking and memorable and good, not something you have to go, now, what did they do? And that's okay. If we go on late in my round, does that mean I will make it into semifinals with more ease? Absolutely not. You know that answer. All units are available to comparative process and will be accountable to their performance. Before we continue, let's review a couple of scoring priorities that are relevant to tonight's conversation. Ranking. Ranking is your finish order. Spreading, you know, we talked about this. This is the numeric difference between the scores of you and your competitors. Profiling is the numeric difference between those two subcaptions, the what and how, if you will. And each judge has different lenses. All right. And rating is your actual number. That score is not really relevant. That's the fourth priority for the judge. The most important thing the judge has to do is ranking. They have to put you in the right order. And the reason that's important is because that ranking is what pushes you into the next round of competition. Ratings during the regional season provide the comparisons across regions and over the 8 weeks of the regional season. Ratings during championships are the vehicle by which we arrive at the final ranking. So they don't have that kind of cross contest relevance that they have in the regional season. There is from rounds to rounds, and a couple of those contests that are split up during the day in different locations, they have that relevance, but there's no primary focus on the score relating to another contest across the country somewhere else. So that need for that numeric discipline kind of succumbs to the priority of getting you in the right order. Only the consistent application from each judge across rounds is the most important thing. The priority is to get the right groups into the next round of competition, get the right groups into semifinals, get the right groups into finals. This is the first job of the prelims judge. It is to not give you a score that is necessary relative to where you were at your last regional. And then you're going to see in a minute that it's not necessarily giving you a score that is relative to the criteria in the same disciplined kind of concrete way that we do in the regional season, or at least that we try. Judges are discouraged from using a tie. Their job as the experts is to tell us who is better than the next. They're hard calls. But if they're the judge, then it is their kind of professional expertise that is supposed to get us to these decisions, these hard decisions. The numbers available in the prelims contest does not always reconcile with the number of units in certain neighborhoods. And understand in the Scholastic A rounds especially, these neighborhoods can be really huge. They can be 8 to 10 color guards. This means that judges will often have to move units out of their appropriate boxes. And when we say boxes, this is the back of the sheet, and this is the numeric ranges that truly describe what it is they're doing. So, and they have to do that in order to rank them properly. And if you remember, in the last, it's like pushing the bell curve down. The bottom is going to get a little bit lower, and the top is going to get a tiny bit higher. So both sides push out, but for the most part, because the bell curve is not equal, you know, we push down, and more groups will actually have their scores go down instead of up. Over 80% of those prelim scores, in fact, will be lower than your standing score or your last regional score. That's really important to be able to express to your guys. Placing your own personal expectations. And when you say this, when I say expectations, that means go into the intellectual part of your brain and make sure that your emotional part of your brain is connecting with this, because you've got to be able to communicate this to your staff and your performers and any of your principals and your administrators that are with you. If I have a great score at my last regional and got an even better score at my circuit championships, can I expect an even better score in Dayton? We talked about this because we know, no. Be aware and be clear. In order for the large number of units to compete against each other, those metrics have to be adjusted. Your score will be lower, no matter who you are. Excuse me. If you have imposed a score goal onto your performers, and this is what I was talking about, you are doomed to have a perceived failure. And you don't want that. You've got to educate yourself first, and then educate your performers not to rely on that prelim score as an indicator of their success or failure, which means even, you know, remember, it's possible that your score was driven up higher than you necessarily deserved also. So you may have a false feel of success as well as that. It is the ranking that's important. Remember, ranking is the first priority for that judge, and it's the function of how they get the right groups into the next round of competition. Can't say it enough, and you can't tell your performers enough, and you can't tell your parents and your principals enough. Your score will go down. Your score will go down. Everybody say it with me. Your score will go down. This instructor's primary focus is on your performers and the program. Control what you can control right now. Competition is based on equal opportunity for success. Groups progress at different rates. This means that some groups move up and some groups move down. This creates the uncertainty. And we all know what uncertainty creates. It creates anxiety. You're right. You're right, because you care and you want to make sure that your performers have every opportunity for success. But the first way to do that is to make sure that you are only working on the things that you can control today. And how you handle this anxiety will reflect in your performers and their performance. And we've all seen those instructors that, you know, all of a sudden their hair goes on fire, and all of a sudden it creates this chaotic rehearsal. Performers then stop figuring out how to calibrate a quad or calibrate a triple, and then all of a sudden these kind of odd errors start peeking in, because now you're not into skill mistakes, you're into concentration mistakes. And that, again, is the fault of the instructor, not of the student. This is not the time for your dramatic breakdown and ego feed. Stay calm and stay focused on the things that you and your performers can control. That's your performance. That's your rehearsal. Establish goals based on performance potential. Get them to reflect at each run through what they are capable of and how close they were to reaching their full performance potential. This is huge. Full performance potential doesn't necessarily mean perfect unless you've delivered that in a run through already. You know, to expect to go out and have this kind of magical light shine down on you and have a performance like no other, not only is that unreasonable, but that's really annoying. if you're another performer on the floor and I'm dealing with Betty Sue over here who's having this moment of enlightenment, and all of a sudden she's doing something she's never done before, all of a sudden that affects my job also. And you can't train for that if you're an instructor. So please know that they got a job to do. They got to go in, they got to punch the time card, and don't expect magic. I don't want to make magic. I want a brilliant run through, and I want the same brilliant performance as the run through. Before you leave for date, establish a performance goal for your prelims run. Work towards increasing percentages and eliminating concentration errors. Don't sabotage your goals with unrealistic expectations. This is that thing about talking about goals in terms of placement or score, especially in those qualifying rounds. That's really bad strategy, and you're going to set yourself up for disappointment, because after prelims, there's basically two color guards that are happy, the ones that won and the ones that squeaked into the next round. You want consistency, not magic, not exception, nothing new. Perform exactly like you rehearse. Don't let your performers sacrifice the performance for their own personal emotional baggage. This is a sign that the inmates are running the asylum. So instructors, you have to be smart, and you've got to make sure you give them the outlet for this, but know that their performance is not the outlet for this last time for the seniors, or do it for Marcy, or no honoring broken legs, or overcoming some other great adversity, or personal tragedies that happen through the years for so many other people. You've got to make sure that your performance is pure and you get them down to zero with a good, clean start, exactly like your run throughs. And then if you need to provide those other performance opportunities for that, like say the Bon Voyage or the homecoming or a seniors thing, all that's fine. Let all of that emotional stuff be funneled into that one moment that you're willing to sacrifice. But your championships is not the time to allow those variables to sneak into your performance. Have them do their job and nothing more. Be prepared, stay focused, place your expectations correctly, and create realistic goals. Please download this, copy it out, or at least send it to everybody on your staff and get them understanding, so you can get on the same page and understand how to focus your priorities as you're getting on the bus and on the plane. And I'll see you all in Dayton, and I'm super excited for you.
Huh.